Greetings, y'all. So I just wanted to respond to this so that I could do a video on it. I actually had respond to a video this particular person had on their page. He was responding, or at least adding to a message that he already heard. And my statement to him was that we, as a culture, used to teach our children their roles and responsibilities as, husband and wife. We also had our parents, right? The parents were engaged in that matrimony process. Now, when I grew up, my dad used to always tell us, don't be out here getting no knucklehead man, because then you're going to have them kids. And them kids going to put you through it. And we know this, right? Epigenetics. So, truthfully, one of the real reasons why we don't have sustainable marriages anymore is because no one is being prepared to walk in those roles. Those things were literally educated. Women were taught from the time they started, right, their menstrual cycle, on the responsibilities of walking as a wife and a mother, right? Vice versa. So these things were cultivated in your children. This principle was very critical. So I sat down and I wrote a few points. So I'm going to read them. Don't, think I'm tripping. So his response reflect a common modern tension, how duty and emotion are perceived as opposites, right? When we take this into our cultural ancestry, the things that our forefathers did, this wasn't about domination and control. A lot of people truly don't understand that the whole ideology of the stay-at-home mom, yeah, that was a mass socialist experiment. That's what the hell it was, right? If you go into your historical research on how these communities were built, right? You'll begin to see them tailor everything, even down to advertise. Everything was completely drummed up. The American dream, because that's exactly what that was. The American dream ideology was a mass social experiment, right? So all of the concepts that people believe about marriage right now was a psychological, goddamn, fix in order to create that middle class. The middle class itself was a mass cultural experiment. Think about that. When you get to digging, this is one thing why when I think about what studying psychology has done for me, it has definitely taught me about digging into legacy, researching in historical context, and researching the person's ideology that created these theories. Because let's not forget, a lot of the shit that we see across this social media is still social fucking engineering. We haven't understood that. And I think that's the unfortunate thing. So, truthfully, there are many cultures that literally did this. And it wasn't about, when you talk about duty, right? When women were taught about doing their duty, when males were taught about doing their duty, it wasn't absence of love and affection. I think because most people look at movies, they assume this is the way the life was. That's a goddamn movie, goddamn it. You gotta look up stuff. You can't, we as a people, this is how they really get our people. Our people don't like to read or research or look into anything. We prefer people to tell us stuff, but that's not the reason why we prefer it, because it's really the reason, this really the way we actually learn. We learn through storytelling, right? and visuals. That's exactly how we learn. And because they know it's the most effective way to educate us, that's how we falter. Because we lack the ability to actually go look for ourselves to see what the people was going. All they got to do is put somebody this color in front of us and we going to believe what they said because they this color. And we can't do that. So let me finish my points. So it was about duty. And duty, right, was love in action. We taught children their roles. And those roles weren't meant to be oppressive. It was about legacy building and spiritual alignment and preparation for community thriving. Because our community ain't thriving. Arranged marriages or marriages, because they still had a choice. Do you understand? People came around when people dated back in the day. There were multiple suitors for a woman, and her parents and family were engaged in that suiting. She had a right to choose. Sometimes they were arranged, sometimes they were not. They're not, those types of relationships back in those days weren't devoid of any affection. Rather, they prioritize covenant. They prioritize the bond that you're supposed to have with your mate. That was more important. Because think about it. I'm a therapist. When children's parents split up, that impacts that child. When fathers say, I'm in that child's life, yes, you are. But every other weekend is not enough time. Your presence in that home space is important. Presence is everything. So the lack of your presence in that space is lacking. And also, let me say this again, as a therapist, we also preach 2-parent homes, but that shit's dysfunctional. Our kids still finna suffer. There are parents that are married and they don't engage with their children. That's still dysfunctional. Because if you're not engaging and educating, then those kids are left to their own devices. And to be honest, that's emotional abandonment. It's the same thing when parents got to work 2 jobs. And I'm not saying it's bad that you got to. You just got to do what you got to do to survive. But still, at the end of the day, your child is lacking your presence. And in the lacking of your presence, that's still emotional abandonment. You don't know how many sessions I've had and me teaching the clients about their insecurities based on emotional abandonment. Because the first thing they say is, well, both of my parents were in the house, but they worked a lot. Yes, that's emotional abandonment. It's not their fault, but it's still emotional abandonment because they're not engaging. They're not getting any instruction. We can't have children without instructing them. Because in that sense, we get what the hell we got now. Last point. The modern discomfort of duty often stems from colonialized systems. And that's really it. That's what they did. Why do you think they took your culture from you? They took your culture from you purposefully so you have nothing to hold to. America is all about assimilation, denying your true self in order to conform to someone else's ideology and principle. And that's the piece we forget. It's also the problem when you're telling the people you're rejecting the shit that people enforced on you. And your people looking at you like you're crazy. Like, what the hell do you mean you're not doing that? No, because it was forced upon me. It's the same thing this way. Sometimes we got to recapture the things that people stole from us in truth. Message!